Hey, thanks for coming back. We're going to go ahead and resume our painting on the crow piece. So this is part 2 of painting crows in a winter sky. And so I guess it's actually day 5, if I'm not mistaken, if you're keeping track. I think this is day 5. So what my goal is to take this piece to completion is to finish this bird. And of course, this bird has to have a lot more detail than the rest. And hopefully you can gather by looking at this piece so far. This bird is the furthest off. It's the least in value. This one is middle zone, if you will, and this one is in your most immediate foreground. So what I'm going to do to also increase the depth perception in the piece, because I was inspired by the snow, and interesting enough, today's almost the same kind of day. It's flurrying outside here in Kingsport, Tennessee, and so perfect day. It's a Monday. I love to, it's my painting day, so I want to get a lot done. So I'm going to be putting a lot of snowflakes. So this bird's going to be a lot more, have a lot more snowflakes on it. This one has a little bit less, and this one will have a little bit even less. So that will also help increase the perception of depth in this piece. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So if you're here and you like watching painting tutorials and a completely unscripted video, then you came to the right place. I'm Suzanne, and I thank you for joining me. If you are my subscribers, of course, as always, thank you so much. And if you're not, please consider subscribing, and know that this particular video will be available on my Patreon channel, and it will be in its entirety, which means it too will also be in 2 parts, but you're probably going to get about like 6 hours worth of video. So check out my Patreon channel, and if you were interested in becoming a patron, I'd appreciate that as well. And yeah, so let's go ahead and jump in and hopefully wrap this piece up today. So here I'm just really redefining and more clearly defining the components of the wing. I'm hitting all the secondary or primary feathers, the coverlets, and just really making everything stand out a little bit before I get into the highlights. So that's what I'm doing here. And here you see me doing a lot more highlights onto the feathers. So after everything was defined, I'm just kind of going in and doing a lot of the highlights. I'm consciously being aware of where my light source is. And since I'm working with 3 separate, completely different reference photos of crows, I have to be, they're not all the same light source. So I have to make all 3 of them have the same light source, or where the light is actually hitting them on their body. Right now, I'm putting in the snowflakes. I got bored. I had to switch off the birds for a while and just jump on the snowflakes. I was dying to get into that. And since you have 3 different birds holding different places in space, one being furthest away and one being in your immediate front or foreground, of course, the bird that's the furthest from us is going to have the most snow covering it, since there is more space, obviously, between you, the viewer, and the bird itself. So I'm having to kind of be aware that the bird that's furthest away is going to have more snow on it, the middle bird a little less snow, obviously, and the bird in the most immediate foreground is going to have the least amount of snow at all covering it. Now, if you look, you'll see that I'm doing some of the snowflakes kind of a dark gray. And that's because if you actually look up at the sky when snow is falling, you're going to see that the snow coming down closest to you, coming out of this light colored sky, is going to be darker. And, the snowflake itself is darker than the actual sky that it's falling out of, just because of the way the light is. So again, this also offers a little bit more depth in the piece. And so I'm just here, you see me defining some more of the feathers of the middle crow. And so I'm going back and forth between my background space and the actual birds themselves, and defining some stuff here. Put more snowflakes in, and obviously there's going to be a whole lot of snowflakes added. Okay, now we're on day 6, I believe, and we should be able to wrap it up today. You know, last night, as you saw earlier, I was, getting the snow in, and you can see that this is creating the depth that I want in the piece. And now that I'm looking at it in daylight, because I was, it was night and I was only working by the artificial light up here, I am going to tone down some of the closer snowflakes, if you will. And by toning down, also just that means I'm adding a little bit of gray, right? So I'm going to, but I like the amount of snow that I have here. I used a brush this morning. I didn't video it, but I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you what I was doing. I took this brush here, and this brush is like ancient. I didn't even buy this brush. I'm pretty sure my mother gave it to me. And it's just a really nice boar bristle stippler, I guess is what it would be called. And so I went over it with just a little bit of oil and just kind of beat in to the background so I could kind of diffuse. I want the texture of the snow, but I didn't want every single stinking snowflake to show up. So I kind of diffused it a little bit with this brush, a nifty little brush to have. And so it says W. Alexander, and I don't have my glasses on, and it's, oh, wait a second, I have glasses right here, so I can tell you what it says. W. Alexander Bristle Round, it just says, and I don't know, I don't even know where she got this, and quite frankly, I don't even know what my mom would have used this brush for. Of course, my mom is, back in her day, she was a very, she was one of the best equestrian artists in New York State. She was doing a lot of equestrian art. So I don't know why she had this brush, but I'm glad that she gave it to me because it surely did come in handy today. So anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in here, and I'm pretty sure that we're gonna finish it up today. So let's see where it goes. Here you see me adding a little bit of gray to the most immediate snowflakes. And that gray, or toning down of the snowflakes, you just don't want necessarily all the snowflakes looking brilliant. And if you recall, the day that I saw the snow, and I was actually inspired to do this piece, it was that big, wet, floppy snowflake. Not the little individual flakes, but that kind of wet snow that comes down where you have basically a conglomerate of snowflakes making a big, wet, floppy mess. So that's what I'm doing here. And so you can see here, I'm using a small eclipse, a rosemary eclipse filbert, and it's allowing me to just really do a lot of the detail and put in a little bit of the grays into the whites. If you look, I'm actually being very conscious of the base of the snowflakes. I'm sorry for this kind of like crazy cinematography here, but I'm trying to show you how this gray is giving a little bit more depth to each one of the snowflakes. And that's what I'm doing here. So I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the eye and going, I've got the mouth or lip area of the crow a little too long and the eye a little too small and too far down. So I'll figure it out here in a minute. And I have probably moved this eye 2 times, I guess, during the process of this painting. And oftentimes when I do that preliminary sketch that you saw in the first video, I just kind of get it in. It's more of a gestural type stuff, type of sketch. And oftentimes, if I'm going to do details and things that are very specific, like, knowing where the primaries and the secondary feathers go and the coverlets and counting out the feathers, that I kind of have to get right in a sketch because that's going to lead me in my painting. But eyes, mouths, beaks, that's kind of arbitrary. I just kind of put that in as I paint. That's really when I do that. But it has to be accurate, right? So you're going to see here in a second that I'm kind of messing here, and all of a sudden I realize, wait a second, there's not enough space between that mouth and that eye. The eye is way too low, and I've got to take it out. So that's what I'm fixing to do here. And I think I even do it another time. In the course of this painting, you'll see that eye gets moved several times. And here you see you have an eyeless bird. How sad is that? So yeah, I've got to figure out where that's going in. And so I'm going to move that eye. What you see, that brown stick on the side, that is actually my maul stick, and I am leaning up on it since this whole painting is actually very wet. Don't need to be leaning up on the canvas itself. So yeah, I'm fine with it, the bird not having an eye for a few minutes before I have to add one in, but you'll see. We'll move that eye up and in a little bit, and we're going to get a little bit more accurate, anatomically accurate crow here in just a minute. Take two. So, yes, they're back. They're both here. I have both puppies here. It's Wednesday. So, yesterday when I was working on this piece, I went into the face on this bird, and I was talking about how, the eye was too low, and I needed to take the lip back on. I was doing this great demonstration. Guess what? I wasn't filming. Yeah, my phone was off, and I used my phone as my video camera, and I just didn't have it on. So sorry about that, but I'm gonna go ahead and catch you up in just a minute. As soon as these dogs settle down, I'm gonna catch you up on what's going on. So what I've done, I actually had to move this eye. The eye was too far back, and this part of the lip was too far back. So looking for where the break of the head was, I moved the eye. So that's what you missed, because I wasn't filming. So I can actually see my counter going as I'm doing this. So yeah, I know I'm filming. So I'm going to go ahead and refine and do a little bit more detail in the head. And guys, we're really getting close to completion on this piece. So I'll end up looking at it when it's, after it's dried some. And there may be that I do a little glazing and toning, color correction, but I'm quite satisfied with this. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the detail on this bird's head, and then we'll be able to wrap it up. Okay, let's add a little life to this eye. So I'm using a little caput mortuum with a combination of Van Dyke brown, and there's black at the top, and I'm creating again a little bit more distance, a little bit more edge to the beak and bill area, and yeah, so you'll see this eye going in. I am actually using a 0 Filbert Eclipse Filbert by Rosemary is the brush I'm using. It's almost as, you know, it's a very small brush. I love Filberts, as most of you know. And this one is doing the trick for me. So I'm able to get a lot of the highlights and detail into the bird itself. And it's, you know, it's coming together. Now I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable about the placement of the eye. And yeah, he's going in nice. And again, I'm having to be very conscious of where the highlights and the light source is for this particular painting. And yeah, I like where everything's going in. Up the head here, and I'm doing some refinement. I think the bill might be just a little too heavy, and I'm going to refine it just a tiny bit. And so how I'm going to do that is I'm going to actually use some of the background color if I still have some. It's getting kind of down to the wire here because some of the paint's kind of drying out a little bit, and so I'm going to go in and kind of cut this bill in just a tiny bit. I mean, I think overall it's still it's good, but I'm going to just kind of undercut it here. And I'm just making it a little bit finer. And it's been a very busy day. I've had students and puppies and all kinds of stuff. I'm going to take it down a little bit here too. I just didn't like how heavy it was. So, okay, I think I'm done. I have gone over a lot more of the detail that's in this bird here. I've refined the bill a little bit. It was a little too heavy, a little too Raven-esque, and you know, I've kind of just taken it down a little tiny bit. But you know, I really did enjoy this piece. This was fun for me, and it was as much just the satisfaction of getting an idea that has been floating around in my head for quite a while, and seeing it kind of come to fruition and getting it down onto canvas. So yeah, this was really fun to do. I won't lie, I was definitely inspired by the works of artists like Motherwell and other modern artists that, you know, I was all about contrast, almost like black and white, and that's what I was, you know, I could see just all the shapes and stuff here, and yeah, I'm really pleased with how it turned out. So there you go. That is the piece in a nutshell there, and I'm I'm happy to call it done, even though I had to do it in the midst of chaos. You wouldn't know it right now, but the birds are Now the birds are just fine because they're on the canvas. The dogs have been driving me nuts, so I'll show you. You wouldn't know that sweet little angel, that's Singer, and his brother right there, that's Teddy. Yeah, they look super sweet and chill right now, but they have been running amok pretty much most of the late afternoon. They were good in the first part of the day, and then, you know, see that waste paper can? What's that full of? Paper towels? You know why? Well, they're puppies, so I was cleaning up the floor. But yeah, see, now that I'm done with the painting, they're just like, yeah, we're good, we're so good. They're super chill, right? And there's dog toys and everything all over the floor. And you can see this is my workstation. There's the painting up on the easel. So, whee, yeah, time to go home, folks. Okay, they're quiet. Are they quiet? Okay. Not exactly. Hey, thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed watching me complete the crows in a winter sky. And knowing that this piece had been floating around in my head for quite some time, it felt really good to get it out on canvas. And the weather lately around here has been really conducive to this kind of scene, the cold, the snow. We've had the big, wet, floppy snow. And that's really what I was trying to do here in this piece as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. And if you have any questions whatsoever about anything that I covered in this video, or even in the last video, because this is part 2, right? So if you have a question in part 1 or part 2 of the crows in a winter sky in flight, just go ahead and leave it in the comment section and I'll get to you. I will. And if you have any suggestions on something you'd like to see, let me know. One of my subscribers suggested she'd like to see some wet-on-wet landscapes. So that sounds like something you're looking forward to. Yeah, no, it's probably going to come up in the next couple videos at some point. And if you're not my subscribers, why not? Where else can you get this chaos? You know, puppies, you know, you can see them back there. They're fighting, they're running, they're playing, they're going nuts. So yeah, it's happening here all the time. So yeah, thank you so much for your patience as my puppies grow. And thanks for being here. And until next time from Kingsport, Tennessee, and this dog kennel I call an art studio, I'll see you. Bye.